So just gonna make sure we are streaming on my camera. Let's see, like that. So since the bad weather here, we have such a trouble with the Wi-Fi. Just gonna pin my video with the Wi-Fi here in this building, and they have been trying to fix it. So my picture freezes sometime, and I get kicked out of Zoom. So if I get kicked out today, just stay and I will come back. Okay. So if you notice that it's quiet from my side, it's just that I am kicked out. Or the Wi-Fi, it's the Wi-Fi that that kind of close, and or it restarts or some kind. After the bad weather, there is a water leak that is it's running water between the walls and all stuff like that. It is what it is. So I am going to start the focus mode here. So we are just streaming with my video. So this is hi Anita, welcome, and welcome if you're watching me in the Facebook group, and we are also in my LinkedIn group. So I hope it works everywhere. So this session is going to be a little bit about the changes or the future of webinar and masterclasses, and they have changed not drastically, but a lot. So a little kind of background is that webinars has always been a huge tool to sell your offers, to generate qualified leads. And from webinars, about 55% converts into qualified leads. And that comes into a webinar of somewhere from ads, or especially from ads, because when you do organic marketing, you have a higher quality of the leads, because you can kind of pick who you want to invite, right? On ads, they target a specific area of people, of course, and then anyone almost can click on the link. But when we do organic lead generation, we do a lot of private invitation to launches. But webinars have a really high conversion rate when it comes to both landing pages, but also when it comes to generate qualified leads into a business. And what is the difference? So a lead is a lead, right? This is someone that could buy for us. But for a qualified leads, they are kind of the perfect match. They are the perfect client. And the qualified leads, when a qualified lead say no, it's a not yet, not a no. That is kind of the difference when we talk about qualified leads, because if a lead is qualified, they are the perfect match. They need your help. They actually are going to have a benefit from your program. They're interested. They are following you. They are raving fans. They sign up for things. They are qualified leads. They can afford to pay and stuff like that. So when they say kind of no, not today, or they don't buy, it's just a not yet. So you really want to think about how to, during your content where you nurture your audience, pre-qualified people. And one way that is really strong when it comes to webinar is to turn any leads into qualified leads. And in the back end of that, because we sometimes look so short-sighted, so we just look at what that webinar for that moment converts. And we don't think about what happens when this lead leaves this webinar, don't buy, what happens then? So we kind of keep chasing leads, and we end up in a constant chasing wheel of lead generation, and only focusing on lead generation and not focusing on the nurturing process in a business is really short-sighted. So unfortunately, when people think about webinars and they think about, yeah, but I run a webinar, I didn't convert. Well, what kind of follow-up did you do? what happened to the lead after your webinar? Because if you follow up with people and you have a really strong nurturing system in place, you actually have 55% conversion rate from a webinar. It's really high, right? And the sales conversion from a webinar is anything between, of course, 2% up to 20, 22, 24% sales conversion rate. And that, of course, depends on a lot of factors, right? If we are new, if we kind of take people on a call or not, if we have colder leads, warmer lead, whatever, right? But they have a really high conversion rate. But what happened was that when everyone kind of went online and everyone started to run webinars, the massive amount of bad, boring pitch fests webinar became really massive, right? So we kind of felt like, yeah, it's not really worth it. I'd rather sign up for something else because I can watch a video on YouTube, or it's just a pitch fest, or they just talk about themselves, or any kind of, there was a lot of kind of bad webinars. But the way that the market has changed, or the way that kind of people have changed during the pandemic, of course, because then webinar converted like crazy because everyone was online. I mean, everyone joined Zoom call. But what happened last year, in the beginning of last year, when the world kind of started to open up, was that people didn't want to spend time on Zoom. So webinars kind of started to drop. And we saw it in launches and workshop and those kind of events as well, right? But they started to drop. So what we did was that we started to test different kind of thing. And some things didn't work out at all. Some things worked out really well. And we took that with us and we asked ourselves, how can we use this information and pivot the way that we do webinars? And now all the statistics from all the webinar platform have from 2022 have now come in, right? Which means we now can see the change from 2021, where like everyone kind of did webinars, into what happened 2022. And I'm going to share with you some statistics as well. We're going to look at it, and we're going to look at, I think it's 15 different ways where you can see a lot of changes in the way that we do webinars, and the market, the people that are really good at running webinars, how they actually have changed their marketing, their lead generation, the way they run it, and so on, okay? And the reason, of course, why webinars and events in itself converts really well is the lack of human connection that have happened online, right? First, we have the social distance, right? But then also the amount of technical things, avoid speak to people, overcomplicated, over kind of digitalized stuff that is online. People are craving human connection, right? Because it's a huge gap in the industry today, the coaching industry, the service-based industry, is human connection, which is kind of strange because it's a service-based business. You are there to serve an audience, to serve a client, but still you don't want to speak to them. So that is kind of a thing that happened during the pandemic, but also into 2022, because anyone can go online, put up a bio, claim to be an expert, and do and sell exactly what you do, right? So the amount of tactics and the amount of strategies have given people an overabundance of opportunities to scale and grow a business. But a lot of them kind of take away. They want to be kind of work as little as possible, have as little as possible human interaction. You don't want to do sales calls. You don't want to speak to people. We want to close high ticketing DMs. We don't want to go live. We don't want to spend any time with people, right? And I always say, if you want to be making a ton shit of money and you want to be in the service-based entrepreneur and be successful, you need to be willing to lay out the foundation of actually being of service. But this is a gap right now. And events, live events, specifically live events, can close the gap. And what happens then when you close the gap? You have something that is superior, right? That people are craving. And you can also see it when people kind of want to pivot as soon as possible from running a live webinar into an evergreen webinar. Even if the webinar doesn't convert, They still want to put it up in a funnel and drive traffic to it, which actually doesn't make really any kind of sense. But the opportunity of running live events right now, webinars, workshops, challenges, it doesn't matter what kind of format, it's huge because of the lack of human interaction that actually is online, okay? So for you who are new to my Facebook group that have signed up for our upcoming workshop or going to watch this recording afterwards. So my name is Angela, and I'm a virtual event sales expert and a business growth strategist. And I help my clients sell and scale with simplicity using virtual events. And I started out in a different niche, and I built my first business running a webinar and a weight loss challenge. And then I pivoted into helping others do webinars and masterclasses and challenges, workshop, whatever you want to call them. And up to today, we have run about 350 workshops or events or webinars live. So we have done all the trial and error you can possibly get your hands on. I have studied, I don't know how many thousands of hours of how other people run their events. I have invested in a webinar coach when I started doing webinars in my fitness business. I have invested in learning the live launch method. And I have run, I don't know how many tests. And last year, this is why I wanted to share this with you. We did a massive amount of testing, running webinars for small audiences, which means I invited people and I tried new things. And then I asked for getting feedback to know what did they like and what did they not like. And then, of course, now we have gotten all the statistics from 2022 from all the webinar platforms where people run webinars and events. And we can kind of compare and we can see that, yeah, what people actually told us is pretty much what the statistics is showing, okay? So I think I have kind of 15 small things to make sure you do have pen and paper. I'm going to try not to overdo the time. So the statement that webinars is dead usually comes from people that don't run webinars. They have tried a couple of webinars, but they have never kind of stick to it long enough to actually make it work or master the strategy. Of course, webinars work. If you look at huge coaches out there, how do they sell their offer? 5-day challenges and webinars. And we have webinars that you do click and buy into $3, $5, and $10 and $15,000 offers to warm audiences, right? So webinars isn't dead, and actually I think it's 75 or 73% and anything like that of marketers actually use webinars and things is the best source to generate the most high qualified leads, okay? And as I said, they convert anything from 5 to 20% into buyers of the viewers of that specific webinars. And then that is going to increase depending on how good we are at nurturing our audience that actually came in somewhere into kind of our business, okay? So we are now going to go through the small changes that we have done that you can take with you into your events, okay? So the first thing, and if you are on, I was going to see if I can get the comment section. I see people are watching on Facebook. So the first thing is, of course, the thing that I talked about a little bit is the craving the more intimate person-to-person interaction. So what we did in 2020-21 was that we ran most of our webinars on Zoom webinar. And Zoom webinar looks different than Zoom meetings, right? Because people can't see other people, they can't turn their camera on, and they can't turn the audio on, okay? So it looks like any other webinar platform, and you just have the chat. So when we started to moving from a webinar platform where there is kind of only me, it's only me, and I can't see people, I can only see the name of the people, but not the pictures of the people, right? When we moved from that into running the webinars on webinar meeting, so people can actually have their cameras on. we started to have a higher conversion rate. We had a way higher engagement rate, right? A way higher engagement rate, because people like it. People like to see other people, and they pay better attention because they know I can see them, right? So they don't take up the phone and start scrolling. They are more engaged, right? So that is one thing that we did, and I can say the over digitalized, fancy, big webinars converts less. And actually, webinars that have less than 200 people in the webinar converts way higher. It's the highest conversion rate compared to anything. It really dropped drastically when webinars starting to have 1,000 and 1,500 people watching, because people like this intimate, more small things, because we're so done with this unpersonal thing, right? So people are craving these kind of more things. And actually almost 80% of webinars have less than 50 people attending. And I know when I talk about webinars, everyone is so scared. Yeah, but what if I only get 30 people? Most webinars in the entire world have less than 50 people showing up. They have less than 50 attendees, and they convert like crazy. And as soon as you kind of start getting 200 people, you're going to start dropping the conversion rate. That is what had happened, because people kind of like this smaller thing, right? And things also, when you look at the statistics from last year, actually almost 70% of people say that the most important thing in a webinar is that the presenter is passionate and engaging, okay? And that is the number one reason why people leave. It has nothing to do with you are not using fancy slides. It has nothing to do with how you are dressed. It has nothing to do with if you use a board and write on, or if you, whatever you do. It has to do with your energy, the passion around the topic, and the engagement with your audience. That is why when we moved from using a webinar platform into using Zoom meetings and actually have pictures of everyone, we have a higher conversion rate. We have less people leaving, less people staying to the, more people staying to the end, and higher conversion rate, okay? There is a lot of ways to increase the engagement by say their names, asking questions, doing polls, engage in the chat box, for an example. There's, of course, a lot of ways to create that. But think about your own energy. And I'm going to share this. When I started using webinars, I was so caught up in using fancy slides. And what happened was that I got so caught up in the fancy slide deck and moving slides and my notes and everything that I totally forgot the people that was watching, right? If I knew today that the number one biggest, most important thing for these people would have been me engaging, I might have thrown those slides away. But it's nice to hide behind the slides in the beginning, right? But think about that one thing is that people are craving more intimate experience when it comes to any kind of event, actually, but especially webinars, because webinars is usually put together more strategically with slides and with it, because you only have like 45 minutes an hour. So it's really kind of this compared to a challenge where it kind of more flowy, right? A little bit different. So that is number one. Number two is the content in itself. People need to learn something. I don't know how many webinars I have signed up for where people promised me to teach me XYZ and they didn't taught me shit, right? It was just a bunch of information that kind of was, yeah, I already knew this. I didn't learn anything. I don't understand this because it didn't learn anything, right? I can't take action on this. So you want to think about your content in a more educational, taking action on content that you can, for an example, maybe show something if you are in fitness, or a whiteboard, educate a more step-by-step structure, and not just throw information together that no one can do anything with, because it's just fluff. It's just fluff. I can watch a video on YouTube. It's just fluff. I know this. I want to have something to that I can take with me when I leave. That is a kind of a step by step. And this is how you do it, A, B, C, and you actually show them. I'm not telling you to give everything away and overwhelm your audience, but you really want to think about going from information into more educational content where people actually learn something. That is why they signed up. You told them that you are gonna teach them the 3 secrets. Teach them 3 things then. Don't just talk a little bit about 2, what they need to do, and not show anything they can actually do, and then they need to buy your offer, right? Because that is how a lot of webinars have been put together, right? So that is number 2. And number 3, have actually to do, there is no specific order. I have just written down, and I can see now, maybe this, I should take this later, but if we look at people signing up for webinars, in 2021, about 17% signed up the same day as the webinar. During 2022, 29% signed up the same day, right? That means people have shorter kind of, first of all, shorter attention span. They take instant decision, but they usually kind of want to see, oh, I don't know if I'm free, I'm going to wait. So the biggest thing you shouldn't do is to stop marketing the day of your webinar, okay? Because that is what a lot of people do. So they are going to run it tomorrow. So tomorrow they're not going to promote it anymore. They're going to stop and they're going to start doing the slides. I don't know what they do. That is the day when you should promote the most. That is the day when you should send out an email to your email list. The same day. Almost 30% of all webinar attendees during 2022 signed up the same day as the webinar. And they are more likely to join because they are, it's fresh, they haven't forgotten it, and they also know that they are free when they signed up. So I invited people to attend this just yesterday. And in my Facebook group, we always announce what is the week's topic. But I sent out yesterday and invited 50 people to join this. Okay. So that is number 3. So don't stop promoting just because it's the same day you run the webinar, actually vice versa. That is the day when you should send out the email, and you should post maybe 3 posts on social media. Okay. So that is number 3. Number 4 is that people have gone from running kind of long webinar that have run maybe for 90 minutes, 1.5 hours, into way shorter, actually down to 30 minutes. I think 30 minutes is more an info session than it is a webinar. But if I would have run an info session or a intimate webinar for only invited 20 people, that is really hot lead. Yeah, 30 minutes is amazing to run. But we run for 45, and it's the structure of the time as well. We have noticed when we start going up until maybe 50, 55 minutes, people start to drop off. And they say that the average length of someone watching a video is 53 minutes. So if you go over 55, you will have a lot of drop off. Okay. And what is important is that you, before the webinar, announce how long it is. So if you run 60 minutes, you need to invite people for a 60-minute webinar. And when you start the webinar, you tell them it's 60 minutes. So they are prepared that it's an hour. So we have our most effective at 45 minutes. Okay. And it have dropped. Why? Because people have so much, it's so much going on, first of all, in the world. They have so much to do. They are an overabundance of things online, everywhere online. And people are more selective on what they sign up for, right? but also they want to learn, and they want to learn like this, boom, 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 give it to me. Just give it to me. And you don't need to drag it out longer than just because you think it needs to be 60 minutes. We convert our best at 45, okay? So that is number 4. Number 5 is that what we can see and that we run, and that is actually maybe not something that is, it's not new for us, but we haven't seen it being used that much. It hasn't been something that I have been teaching, because I believe in creating one webinar, and then you go to market with that webinar over and over and over and over again. You don't craft together 5 or 6 different webinars in the beginning, because you are going to be exhausted. It's better to run one, master one, and it's going to convert higher and higher and higher. And when it converts really, really, really well, you can put it up as an evergreen, right? But what we have seen is that people create different webinars depending on what kind of audience. So you have a cold lead generation audience. That is one webinar. It's when you run a big webinar and you invite everyone and they become leads, right? It's kind of a lead generation webinar. It's an ordinary webinar. But then we have run something called info session, where we just invite people. We don't go out and invite everyone. We just invite really hot leads that we know we are going to be able to convert, or they are ready to be converted into something else. So we invite them to we call it info session. You can always call it an invite only webinar. So you run it for maybe 20 hot leads. So you just reach out and personally invite people to this specific webinar where you address a specific problem, and then you sell. And we use it to sell into really high ticket offers. So we pick out people and we invite them. Those have crazy high conversion rate, of course, because it's you decide who's going to join. And so that is something that you see. So lead generation, ordinary webinars, of course, that is the number 1 that you should start with. But then further along the way, you might want to think about, can I have some kind of a smaller, intimate, invite-only webinar that address something specifically, more like a pop-up webinar, maybe you can call it. And then, of course, the info session webinar can also be used at clients or previous clients when you have an offer ladder. So for me, we have a membership called Sprint. And I can have an info session for clients in Sprint and sell into the next level, which is Close Clients Revolution in our case. That we have started to see way more, because it's really nice when you get a personal invite, right? And you get a personal connection with this person, and a really, really small gathering. It's a really high conversion, really nice way of running a webinar. And the beauty with webinars is that you can use it as so many different ways. I can take my webinar and I can go out and speak to any stages. I get invited to be in a group. I can go there, I can take my webinar and I can speak to that group and get leads. Even if are not allowed to sell, I just skip the selling part. It's a beauty with webinars, and why people are resisting to write a signature speech to have amaze me. Because people that speak have immediately authority in the market space, right? That is why people want to be on the TEDx stage. That is the reason why. So you can further along the way think about different kind of way to use webinars, right? So that is number 5. And number 6, let's see, I actually did a note so I didn't don't forget it. Number 6 is what we kind of, so what I have noticed, so this is something that we have noticed is a trend, is that people are in the beginning of a webinar, tell people that in the end of this, I am going to give you an invite. And they actually say it. For me, that have run over 350 events, it makes no sense, because all converting events is going to have an invite, right? But what I've noticed is that people kind of when they sign up feel so, yeah, but I don't want to join a webinar because there will always be something they want to sell. It's kind of so strange for me because, yeah, it's a webinar. It's a converting event. It's meant to have an invite to another event, a program, whatever, right? But when there are so many people kind of that have a strange mindset around selling, so they want to sell, but they hate being sold to, which is not the mindset that you should have, you end up with a lot of people resisting. So you are never ever going to be able to kind of interact with them in a live one-to-one interaction. So does it work? Yes. And what you do then is that you, in the beginning of the webinar, tell, I am going to teach you X, Y, and Z. In this webinar, we're going to go through this, this, and this. In the end of this session, I am going to hand out an invitation to a program or to book a call or to an event or something. Okay. And that is a trend because that wasn't before. No one did that before. That is something that I came across. I don't know who did it, but I was kind of surprised because for me it was like, yeah, obvious. I know that. Why are you telling me that? But then I thought, yeah, maybe her audience or his audience doesn't understand that. For me, it's more like, of course, but we run them all the time, right? So it's a big difference. So it's not something that we have specifically tried and failed with. It's not something that we have tried and have great success with. It falls kind of between. But for your audience, it might work really, really well if you are completely transparent from the beginning that you are going to invite them to something. It might be a break, and you can even use it like, in the end of this webinar, I am going to invite you to book a call. Does everyone agree with that? I want to hear it in the chat. So you get people to confirm that they are ready for you to pitch them with a call. It's kind of reverse engineering, right? So does it work? Yeah. And if your audience are people that might not be, for me, other coaches that are going to sell something, I think it would work really well. But since my audience is people that are going to sell something in their next step, it haven't done the either way. But if your audience might be moms that wants to lose weight, I would think try it. It could be worth trying. This is webinars. I'm not talking about 5-day events here. This is webinars. So this is just for webinar, standalone 45-minute webinars. Because webinars have a different, when people think about webinars or masterclasses, they have a different kind of vibe around it because they say they are dead, they are boring, pitch fest, whatever. And so when it comes to a 5-day challenge, you don't open the cart on day one, right? We open it later along the way. We want to craft a transformation for them first, and we sell high ticket offers, right? Usually you can sell, of course, a low ticket, but for a 5-day challenge, we usually run them several days because we want to have a click and buy on a high ticket offer. So this is specifically for standalone webinars, 45 minutes, okay? But can you use it in the 5-day challenge? Yeah, so I was at a launch, so it's a 5-day challenge the way that we run them. So we add days of selling, and day one, that coach actually showed their entire offer ladder because I have multiple offers in steps. And she said that on day 4, on Thursday, you need to join because I'm going to give away this. And I'm also going to hand out an invitation for us to work with you. If she found that working, I guess she uses it. She works on helping people scale on LinkedIn. So it might work as well, but we haven't tried it. So this statistics that I talk about today is for standalone webinars. Yeah, so we kind of split the thing because some of these might work more or less on longer workshops, right? Because the difference is in a workshop compared to a webinar, they have you for 45 minutes. You should be like, know, and trust and make a decision in just 45 minutes, but they need a more stronger follow-up. In a 5-day challenge, you built it during several days, right? So it looks a little bit different, but most of this is compared to kind of both. So that was kind of number 6. So just a quick kind of recap because I have the notes. So more intimate experience, more educational content, not just fluff, information-based. Don't stop promoting the day of your webinar. You have almost 30% of people sign up the same day. We have noticed that shorter webinar converts better for us. 45 minutes is our best. You can try out different length and you're going to see when people start drop off. I do recommend that when you start your webinar, you tell people how long the webinar is going to be. Okay. We see an increase of different kind of webinar for different audiences, which means we run invite-only webinars for smaller private things, info session for clients that is going to be upsold or sold to something else. And then, of course, an ordinary webinar. And then number 6 was that a lot of what we have seen is that a lot of people start by be transparent about there will be an offer, okay, in the end of this. So, and I suggest you try it, and you can try it on your challenges as well. It's depending on, of course, maybe what is your market, okay? For my market, everyone knows that there will be an offer, so I feel it makes no sense in that way. But people love transparency because there's so much non-transparency. I don't know what the other word, if it's not transparent, what it is, but they hide things, right? They are not really kind of transparent in what they do. Like, yeah, but how much does this cost? I'm not going to tell you. You know, well, how can I do that? I'm not going to tell you. You know, those kind of things. So I think it's a lack of the transparency that is happening online that have increased, that people love when people are totally transparent, right? So they just tell what it is, okay? And then the 7th thing that we have noticed is that we have removed almost 50% of the stuff on our landing pages. And I am not a reader, so I hate long landing pages. If I need to start scrolling to find things, I am gone. So I have always liked short landing pages, but if you look at an ordinary webinar landing page, they could actually be how long? You can just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. And there is 200 videos or testimonials, which is great. I'm not saying you should have a lot of testimonials, but I can say that shorter, concise, really specific landing pages with zero fluff have a higher conversion. And when I say conversion rate, is how many actually click and register. So we run the same landing pages, right? It's like this, you split and you try two landing pages. And the ones where it's only really, really specific on who the webinar is for, that is need to be there, okay? What is the result? What is the result? What is the problem that I'm going to solve? That should be able to read that in 5 seconds, have the highest, absolute highest. And then I usually have below, this is what we are going to do, X, Y, Z. That is why the landing pages on Zoom webinar have extremely high conversion rate, because it's just like a little text, nothing else. Is it for me? What do I leave knowing? What problem does it solve? That is all I need to know. And then, of course, you can add some maybe testimonials, screenshot or have written testimonial, a picture of you. But gone are really, really long landing pages. Those actually convert lower. And I'm talking about landing pages, opt-in pages, not sales pages. So don't confuse that. So simplify your registration page could be something to try. If you have a low conversion rate on your pages, simplify them, because a webinar page usually, or they can convert up to the normal might be 55%, and that is pretty high compared to a lot of pages. And the more specific, simple you can do it, so people directly understand if it's for them, the higher it's going to convert. Okay. And for me, yeah, I've always hated long pages, so that is not something that we have. I struggle with writing long pages, but like in 5 seconds, people should know if it's for them or not. Okay. The next thing, the 8th thing, and I can post. I can actually post this in the Facebook group if you kind of have trouble to follow. I can post this list later further along the way. Okay. And if we look like number 8, so what happened was that a lot of people moved from their email list, and no one reads emails are boring, and they go on to more social media platform. And now the emails are starting to coming back, right? And you need to build your email. You own your email list, you borrow traffic. Never ever forget that. If you build your entire business based on a Facebook group, you are going to be in trouble the day that Facebook group is closed down, Facebook goes down, whatever. You don't own it, Facebook owns it, right? So you need to build your email list. And now more people than ever opt into your webinars from your email list. It has actually turned around, and emails are now the best marketing tool out there. And the best thing is that you own it. So if you haven't started building your email list, do it. You not, of course, build your email list using your webinar, but you can also do ask for emails when they join your group. You can you can build out some kind of freebie, some kind of free trainings. For example, you might have run a webinar. I can take this training, put it up in a funnel, and go out and give it away for an opt-in to get email, right? So always think about ways to grow that list, okay? And that comes down to number 9 that we don't use, but we have seen it that almost everyone started to using it. It's the SMS, it's the message, right? So you can send out promotion, of course, but send out reminders on text message, and it works really well, of course. And we haven't used it, but it's a trend. You can see it. Everyone have added almost that you need to leave your text, your phone number, right? And it's huge. But I do not recommend to spam people because they are going to block you. So use it for when people sign up. Use it for reminders. And use it to send out, of course, when you do your sale, but specifically for reminders, it's really great. So when you send out the text, like 2 minutes, 5 minutes before you start, there is a direct link to join your webinar. Also use it to promote your next webinar, right? But don't end up spamming people on message. And I have, in the beginning, I left my, not this number that I have now in Italy, but when I lived in Spain, I left my spam, but I needed to block them. And after that, I never leave my, because they are abusing it. So be really careful so you don't start to kind of abuse it, okay? Something that is increasing all the time is LinkedIn webinars run on LinkedIn events, and that is really powerful. If you work LinkedIn, use LinkedIn event and go live on LinkedIn. You can run, now it's Thursday, but let's say it was Tuesday, then I could decide to run a webinar using LinkedIn event tomorrow, Wednesday, and specifically invite people that I want to join, and then I go live with LinkedIn, okay? Works really, really well. In our program, we teach running webinars and masterclasses using LinkedIn events. And if you use LinkedIn, don't miss out on that opportunity. More and more people are using it, so make sure you grab the opportunity and go live there, okay? So that was kind of number 10. And number 11 and 12 I've written down here is almost kind of combined, and we have talked a little bit, is that what have happened with webinars is that before they use massive, not 500, but 100 slides, 150 slides, just like this, boom, boom, almost like that. And I never liked it because I get so diluted in the energy, because I wanted to read what was on the slide, but people use like this small letters, and you are looking in your phone and you are not going to be able to read it. So you screenshot and you almost are like the phone here. So the attention goes from listening, engaging, to try to read. And a lot of people, when they start reading, they don't listen, you know, which means we have never had so many fancy slides, but I did in my fitness business because I was taught to have at least 100 slides for a 50-minute webinar. Now I use, if I use slides, I guess I have maybe 10 slides, and I have only big text like this, just something so they can lean their eyes off, okay, on. So gone are those really complicated, fancy, techy slides, and you really should think about what happened with the audience when you show this. If you want them to listen to you, watch you, engage with you, their attention goes to your beautiful, magical slide here, but they can't hardly read what it says, so they start trying to read and stops listening, right? So that is something that we have noticed, and you can see it. You can see it. I was in a 3-day workshop from a guy that teach how to do webinars, and I have been to he's a big coach. He has done this for 15 years, right? And I have been before, and now this time it was white or pink or something background with just the text. And I was just like, oh, it didn't look like that before, because he had a lot of fancy, nice slides. And you can see the changes in all those kind of live events, that people are moving away from really massive amount of slides. And you don't need, and I'm gonna be honest, that I rather join where people use very little slides, and simple slides with just text, or no slides. Okay, so that can be something you can think about, and that is combined with the next thing that I want to talk about, and that is the more unperfect way of running it. And a lot of people are scared to do webinars, and they say that they feel no, I don't feel like this comfortable, but they're actually scared of the tech behind it, because they think they need so much technical, complicated, perfect thing. They need to look perfect. They need to have some kind of perfect background, because they have seen that. They need all these perfect slides. They need the best light. They need a big, what do you say, a microphone here, and they need all this tech. And you can see someone's workspace that run a lot of webinars. It's like a TV studio, and that scares people from doing webinars. And I really want to encourage you that you do not need that. And for me, for an example, if I would have had that pressure, I wouldn't be able to live my lifestyle, because I want to travel full time. Should I carry that stuff around? Oh no, you know. So I didn't even take my ring light when I went from, I was in Spain, and then I went to Sweden over the summer, and I went here. When I landed here, I went and bought a ring light for €9. That is what I did, right? Because if I would have carried that stuff around, I would be able to, I needed to be at one place. So I can really encourage you, you don't need that. The more a little imperfect, more personal webinar, people are craving you. They want to see you. And I always say that I want to show people that they can be successful without and it doesn't need to be perfect. So why would I want to try to be perfect? If I say to people, no, you don't need to do that, but I am perfect all the time, And I want to encourage people that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is an Airbnb that I am in now, for example, right? You have an ugly brown door there. You have a white, almost dirty wall there. And if you turn the camera, you actually have, I needed to cover that up because it's too light. And then you have the kitchen. It is what it is. Who cares? And people don't care. They are there because they want to learn something from you. You are the expert. You are the one speaking. If you speak, you are immediately authority. Immediately, if you see someone stands up and starts speaking, they are authority, right? You are going to think, they probably know their shit because they're standing up and speak here. Or you are running a webinar virtual, or you're on a stage. You are immediately in the eyes of the beholder. You have all the knowledge. They signed up to learn from you. And you are always perceived from the eye of the beholder, not from how you feel. Oh, I want to look perfect. No one cares, okay? No one cares, because if everyone needed to be perfect to be successful, a very, 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 oh, now my picture froze. A very, very small amount of people would be successful, right? So I want to encourage you that now actually more personal, imperfect webinars convert higher. And also, don't read off a script. I know in the beginning it's kind of easy, and I actually have notes here. I could take a picture of this and share it so you can actually see. I actually have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because otherwise I would be looking down, and I don't really like that. But that is why the most powerful is to run the same thing over and over again. So you can run an entire webinar without having even one thing you need to read from, because then you're going to be way more engaging. And remember that that was the #1 reason why people leave, that you're not engaging, you're not passionate. The less you read of a script, the more you speak from here, the more passion you are going to, and energy people are going to kind of see and feel, the more engaging you can be, right? Which means if you, every time you run a webinar, craft new content, you will always need to have some kind of script in order to remember what you're going to speak about. That is why the signature webinar is so powerful, and you can make 10, 20, 30, even $100,000 from one single webinar. And I remember Russell Brunson always say you should run the same webinar until that webinar have made you $1 million. Well, I don't know about that, because that you of course need to put it up in a funnel and he sells ClickFunnels, but you can easily run the same webinar. It's going to convert that. It maybe starts at 3, 4, 6, but if you give up, you will never reach 20,000 from that webinar because you've given up, right? So really think about the power of running it over and over again, so you can start speaking more kind of unstructured, right? Even if you follow step by step, because it shouldn't be unstructured in a way that you are fluffy everywhere, but more kind of unscripted, can we call it that? So it's more like you have a two-way communication like this, okay? And that have been in a lot of challenges, a lot of this two-way communication and this kind of, you work your way through and you get questions and you kind of, because you have 5 to 9 days to kind of work and go a little bit with the flow. But it haven't been with webinars, right? Because they have been really kind of scripted out. Think about the signature webinar, the power of actually go a little bit unpolished. I don't know if that is a good word, but a little bit kind of more speak directly from your heart, even if it needs to be structured, because you have to have the structure first. Don't start with go with the flow, okay? First, you have the structure, and when you have the structure, you start to master the structure. So you start to master your content, then you can start going with the flow, because then you can go with the flow in a structured way. And that is something completely different than just bubble around. Okay? Because no one wants to be in a bubble around webinar, needs to be a structure behind. So we teach the structure, right? And then people use it over and over again. And the better you become, the more confident you become, the more you know what you're going to talk about, the more you can kind of do it unscripted. And those converts, of course, the best, right? Compared to really kind of read through from a script or something, right? And then the couple of last thing here that we're just going to tie it up is that people need more reminders. Okay, no story. And that has, of course, to do with everything that people have in their head. That is why you need to send out way more reminders. It's not enough to send out 2 reminders anymore. We send out 4 to 6 reminders the same day of our ordinary kind of standalone monthly webinars, because people forget. And we always send out the last one like 5 minutes before, and they can just click on a button and they end up in the Zoom right away without any kind of walkthrough. The less friction you can create, the better it is, right? So think about that. It's not enough to send out 2 reminders to people. They don't open all the emails, and they need more because they have so much in their heads. You have, right? You have. So if you have a lot of things to think about, your audience have that as well. So more reminders. And also when it comes to after you have run your webinar, you need to have a really strong follow-up system. And we do it a little kind of, a couple of different kind of way, and I can give you a couple of tips here. So people sign up for so many things, right? That is why you want to have a really strong webinar topic and those kind of things. So people they are more picky, but they still have a lot of things going on, which means the show up rate is lower than it was during the pandemic, obviously, because during the pandemic, people was locked in their homes. They are not anymore. So we're kind of went back to how it was before the pandemic, but before the pandemic, there was not so many people online working. So it wasn't so noisy, right? So you want to think about how you can kind of get in front of more people, of those people that were interested. So there's a couple of ways of doing it. You run your first webinar, and then you can have a replay or not a replay. So I like the replay. But if you can't follow who actually watched the replay, you do not know which one watched the replay and which one didn't, right? So let's say you're just using Zoom and you just put up the recording and people don't opt in, or you can't track it with a CRM system so you actually can see who watched it. You actually don't know. So what you can do instead is that you run your live webinar and you track who was there live. And all the people that wasn't live, you invite them to a back-to-back webinar, an encore webinar, a webinar that runs 2 days after, and go live again to the people that didn't join live. And those works really well. And compared to a replay, it converts higher as well, because this converts more than any replay can ever do. Okay? Live converts higher. So that could be an option. If you can't track who actually watch your replays, that can be an option to actually people that didn't join live, you invite them and you run it again. And you send out an email. I saw you missed the webinar. And I actually have a gift for you. So let's do this. I know there is a lot of things going on and you have a lot of things to think about, and it's totally fine. So I'm actually going to run it again on Thursday, and you pick another time. You can run it in the morning or something. Some people run one evening and one morning, right? So you kind of, and only for the people that then didn't show up. And then you can invite people that didn't sign up as well. You can get them a second chance to sign up and join. That could be kind of it. And you can call it on back-to-back or encore or something. You go live again. We track the replay, so we go out with a replay, and we have the replay up for about 48 hours, and we have maybe 20% of people that registered watch the replay, but it never converts as much, right? Because I can't kind of talk to them in the comment section. So let's say I was selling something here and I could ask someone that is online, or I can say their name when they take action, and when they take action, I kind of congratulate them for taking the next step. I can't do that in the replay, right? But we have about 20% people that watch the replays, right? And that is also something you want to think about, that most sales happens after a webinar. They don't buy live. And if you run a webinar and you kind of sell into a program or a call or another event or something, and you don't have a really kind of strong FOMO thing like a bonus or something, then people might book when they are on the webinar. Or you can have a clock and you can say you have 10 minutes, so leave this webinar, go out and book your call, and you are going to get this fantastic bonus, right? But still, most sales happen in the follow-up process. But if you don't follow up, so you just get leads here, you run your webinar, you sell, you send one email, then you're done, you're going to have a low conversion rate. You're going to think webinar doesn't work. But people need to see your offer more than one time. That is why we have 5 days of selling when we do 5-day challenges for high-ticket offers, because people need to hear your offer multiple times, right? So you need to look at, if you have run webinars and you have a low conversion rate, you can ask what actually happens when people leave. The people that didn't watch live, you either make sure they get the replay or you run one more, but then you need to follow up, right? With emails, if you have personally invited someone, follow up with them. You will leave a massive amount of money on the table because you do not follow up. And especially from webinars, because that is when the most sales happen. They don't buy live. I don't think I have ever bought anything live during a webinar. I might have saved the link, and then I keep on watching, and then it's the end, and then I go to the link. But it might be something comes up, or I think I'm going to go and get some coffee or whatever, and then I forgot all about it. And that person doesn't even send out one email. Well, they didn't get my sale. They didn't get my money because I don't buy live. Why would I'm there to watch 45 minutes? I'm not going to click on another link and off I go there and do something else. I'm there fully committed for the 45 minutes. I'm going to be there until it closed. Then I'm going to go and check it out. And most people do that in webinars, but we don't think about it. So we just do one mail. So make sure you actually think about how can you follow up. And there's a lot of way of doing it, of course. But depending on if you have a can track or you do it kind of more a manual way, okay? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put together this list, and I am going to upload this recording on YouTube and send it out on everyone that signed up on the on this that gets access to the replay. In the Facebook group, I guess I will take the list and post it in the comment section and above this video, because sometimes the comment section on live videos is so hard to read. So I will post it also above this this video, okay? And then if you feel like webinars, yes, webinars is something that I want to learn to master. We have the free event coming up, the Sell with Webinars workshop. It runs 7th, 8th, and 9th of March, the main session. There are 3 main sessions. But on the 6th, we're going to run a bonus session about mindset and about how you need to shift your sales mindset and your lead generation mindset in order to not get in your own way of your success. So we're going to run a bonus training. Then we run session number 1, that is going to be put up a webinar framework, pick the topic, title, and those kind of things. Session number 2 is how to build a leverage lead generating system for your webinars. Session number 3 is, of course, how do you sell from a webinar? Then we run a bonus session on Friday, because somewhere along the way, a webinar compared to a long challenge is ultimate, perfect to put up on Evergreen. like drive traffic to an opt-in page where they watch your webinar. You don't want to do this until your webinar converts, and you might need to run 50 webinars or 100 webinars to get the perfect webinar. You might need to run 10 webinars. But somewhere along the way, webinars is amazing to make money while you sleep, to get people to book a call without you are even there, or click on a link and buy something in an easy, simple funnel. I'm not talking about a complicated sales funnel. I'm talking about an opt-in page that lead directly to a replay, okay? So on Friday, we're gonna talk a little bit how that can look like. When is it a good time to take this webinar, put it up on Evergreen? And how can I have it on Evergreen? And how do I do the opt-in? And how do I sell from something that is recorded into booking a call or something? We're gonna talk a little bit about that. So that is gonna be a bonus session on the Friday. But the main sessions is 7th, 8th, and 9th of March. And the emails, if you're on my email list, you get invitations that is sent out. And in the Facebook group, of course, we already promote it. And we're going to run it on Zoom, and we stream it always into the Facebook. But make sure that you sign up, because when you sign up, you get all the reminders, of course. You get a replay page that you can have access to. You also get the workbook. So make sure that you click on the link and sign up. And it's a free workshop. And we have a giveaway for everyone that refers people in. So when people, you're going to see when you sign up, you can write that you were referred by someone. And everyone that refer people that enter your name as their referral, you enter a giveaway where we're going to give away our program that is for webinars, our webinar method program. And we're going to give away a one-to-one 90-minute session. And those have the value of $1,500 and $1,900. So you can share the link, but make sure you ask people to write you as the referral. Otherwise, I don't know that you refer people, right? So in order to enter the giveaway. But make sure you do sign up. I post the link in the comment section as well in the Facebook group. And if you watch this on YouTube, where the replay is going to be, I will post the link below here. Okay. So I hope this was kind of give you some ideas of how you can pivot your webinars or your masterclass, if you want to call it that, your presentation. And remember that webinars is an amazing tool, because you can use that speak. You can use that speech that you put together on any stage, anywhere. You can be invited to summit, podcast, Facebook groups. It could be on stage, off stage. You just use the same webinar without or with the pitch of an offer. It's totally depending on if you are allowed to sell or not, right? So that is the beauty behind it. And you don't need to craft new things. You run the same thing over and over again. It's 45 minutes of you be able to make maybe $10,000 in your next webinar, right? And it's an amazing to have that speak actually done. So you have something, and we have 3 signatures that we use, and we use the same thing. I don't think I have written a new webinar. I don't know when I did a new webinar, right? So they're amazing, and people underestimate the power behind them, and they think of, when they think about webinars, they think about this complicated, I need to do 200 slides, I need to have a webinar platform, microphone, all the techy thing. No, you do not, okay? You can run them completely without slides. You can have a workbook instead if you want to. You can have 10 slides. You can use this. You can use Zoom like this. I could actually run it with LinkedIn Live, which costs me absolutely nothing. I could actually have run this with Facebook Live. Cost me absolutely nothing. People overcomplicate it and think that doesn't work. And the truth is that they convert. It's one of the highest conversions from leads into registration, but also from lead into qualified leads. And the normal conversion rate, as I said, is actually as high as between 5 and 20%. And if you go out and ask what is the normal. The normal is 2.5% across industries. That is a normal conversion rate. Okay, webinars convert usually higher than that, and we convert around between 17 to 21% into a sale. Okay, so they are really powerful, but the most powerful thing I would say is that you can use it to other audiences. And if you can go live in another person's Facebook group, you just take your webinar, and since you have run it over and over again, you can run 30 minutes without having any kind of notes, and people are going to trust you instantly, because the more you can show up, not be scripted, not read from a note or a paper, and actually engage like this and speak, the more they are going to trust you. And I can't understand why people do not want to go and speak to people, because it's instantly going to give you more authority in your market. You're going to instantly be seen as the expert compared to someone that don't speak. Speaking is the most powerful way, and it costs you absolutely nothing. So if you haven't signed up for our 3-day workshop coming up, do. And I will see you next week in our Facebook group. And next week we run our weekly small training on Wednesday, and we run another training on Thursday. Because this week we run the 6-figure programs, so we haven't done any live in the Facebook group. So thank you so much for listening, and I will go into the Facebook group and check. I don't have Facebook on at the same time because I'm so scared of the unstable Wi-Fi, so I can't have both screens on one on Facebook and one on Zoom. So that is why I can't see Facebook comments. So thank you so much, and I will see you. So take care, everyone. Bye.